You ever see a car that makes you wonder, what were they thinking? That's the BMW M6 E63, a car that took BMW's obsession with performance, added some questionable design choices, and shoved a Formula One-inspired V10 under the hood. It was aggressive, controversial, and one of the last truly wild M cars before BMW started playing it safe. It wasn't just a performance machine, it was a statement. It dared to be different, but in doing so, it created a bit of a love it or hate it vibe, especially among car enthusiasts. Back in the early 2000s, BMW was still in its let's take risks phase. The E63 6 Series debuted in 2003 as a Grand Tourer, blending luxury with performance. But the real beast arrived in 2005, the M6. This was the true M variant of the 6 Series, and it was designed to go head-to-head with cars like the Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG and the Porsche 911 Turbo. It shared its chassis with the E65 series, and just like its sedan sibling, it had people divided over its looks. The exterior styling was bold, dramatic, and forward-thinking, but it was also polarizing. Designed by Adrian Van Hooijdonk under the direction of Chris Bangle, the E63 had the infamous Bangle butt rear end, a design choice that left purists scratching their heads. Love it or hate it, though, this car had presence. It made sure that people took notice when it passed by. Now, let's talk about the real reason you're here, that engine. The M6 packed a 5.0-liter, naturally aspirated V10, the legendary S85. This wasn't some reworked V8 or a bored-out inline 6. It was a true motorsport-derived masterpiece, pushing 507 horsepower at a screaming 7,750 RPM and 384 foot-pounds of torque at 6,100 RPM. It revved all the way up to 8,250 RPM, which, in a world dominated by turbochargers today, sounds downright exotic. This was an engine that didn't just offer power, it offered drama, aggression, and an unmistakable sound. The power delivery was raw, the sound was intoxicating, and the red line begged you to keep pushing it higher and higher. Pair that with the 7-speed SMG3 transmission, BMW's single-clutch automated manual, and you had an experience that was equal parts thrilling and frustrating. When driven hard, the SMG delivered lightning-fast shifts, but in traffic, many complained that it was jerky, unpredictable, and made you look like you had no idea how to drive. You'd find yourself lurching around at slow speeds as the transmission struggled to smooth things out. It wasn't exactly the most user-friendly setup, but it was undeniably fast. BMW later offered a 6-speed manual in the US because enthusiasts demanded it, but let's be real, the majority of these cars came with the SMG. And that sound, it's pure motorsport. At idle, a deep, menacing growl. At full throttle, an F1-inspired wail that sent shivers down your spine. Past 5,000 revolutions per minute, it screamed with unfiltered aggression, each SMG shift punctuated by a thunderous bark. There were no fake noises, no sound enhancements, just raw mechanical music. Performance-wise, the M6 could do 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 4.1 seconds. Thanks to launch control, it was electronically limited to 155 miles per hour, but if you were feeling brave, removing the limiter meant you could hit around 200 miles per hour. For a luxury Grand Tourer in the mid-2000s, those numbers were absurd. The M6 wasn't just fast, it was blisteringly fast. It was a car that could deliver on both the Autobahn and the racetrack, making it a true, multifaceted machine that could handle nearly anything thrown at it. It combined raw performance with luxury and comfort, creating a driving experience that was exhilarating yet refined. But the power wasn't just about acceleration, it was about precision and control. The M6's chassis, suspension, and braking systems worked in harmony to give the driver confidence at the high speeds. It wasn't just about the straight-line performance, it was about cornering, handling, and feeling the car respond to every input you made. Speaking of luxury, BMW didn't hold back on tech. The M6 had adaptive headlights, active anti-roll bars, and variable steering. The interior of the M6 was a blend of luxury and driver-focused performance, embodying BMW's philosophy of making the cabin a cockpit for enthusiasts. Premium materials like merino leather, aluminum trim, and optional carbon fiber accents gave it a high-end feel, while the M-specific seats offered exceptional support for both spirited driving and long-distance cruising. The dashboard was clean and minimalistic, dominated by the early iDrive system, an innovative but often frustrating interface in its first generation. The iDrive system was ahead of its time, but it took some time for drivers to get used to it. Despite the occasional irritation, the system offered plenty of functionality and kept the cabin clean and uncluttered. A head-up display projected key performance data onto the windshield, reinforcing the car's motorsport pedigree. It was a car that made you feel like you were behind the wheel of something special, a vehicle that put you in direct contact with the driving experience. While practical elements like a usable rear seat and a spacious trunk added grand touring credentials, the overall ambiance made it clear this was a machine built for driving first, comfort second. The M6 wasn't about sacrificing performance for comfort. It was about combining the two in a way that made every drive feel like an event. And yet, the car still had the ability to cruise in relative comfort when you weren't pushing it to the limit. It wasn't the most practical car in its class, but it was a perfect balance of everyday usability and exceptional performance. Now, let's talk about weight. BMW went all out with lightweight materials, aluminum doors and hood, a carbon-reinforced plastic trunk, and even a carbon fiber roof on the coupe. But even with all that, the M6 still tipped the scales at over 4,000 pounds. It was fast, but it wasn't exactly light on its feet. The weight was noticeable, especially in tight corners where the car could feel a bit heavy. However, thanks to its advanced suspension systems, the M6 still handled well for its size. It wasn't as agile as a lightweight sports car, but it was still far more nimble than most other Grand Tours in its class. Behind the wheel, the BMW M6 E63 was an absolute thrill, combining raw power with a balanced chassis that made it a joy to push hard. The naturally aspirated V10 delivered relentless acceleration, screaming to its 8,250 RPM redline with an intoxicating sound that made every gear change an event. The precise steering, adaptive suspension, and M-tuned chassis provided confidence at high speeds, making it feel planted and composed even in aggressive cornering. The M6 wasn't just a fast car, it was a driver's car, one that rewarded skill behind the wheel. The more you pushed it, the more it gave back. While its weight was noticeable, the car's advanced technology, like the active M differential and electronic damping, helped it remain surprisingly agile for a Grand Tourer. On the open road, the M6 felt like a true Autobahn missile, effortlessly devouring miles while still offering a refined and comfortable ride when needed. It was a car that was just as comfortable on the long haul as it was at the track. Over the years, BMW made some tweaks. In 2007, the whole 6 Series lineup got a facelift, bringing new headlights, updated taillights, and minor interior revisions. The M6 remained mostly unchanged, though later models got an updated iDrive system that was slightly less frustrating to use. The facelift did give the car a fresher look, but it didn't fundamentally change the M6's character. The M6 was still the same aggressive, raw, and borderline crazy machine it had been when it first debuted. Production numbers? Pretty rare. BMW built just over 9,000 M6 coupes and around 5,000 convertibles, making a total of roughly 14,000 units worldwide. That exclusivity means prices today are all over the place. Some are well-kept collector's cars, while others have been abused into oblivion by people who didn't respect the V10's maintenance requirements. The M6 E63 is a car that commands attention, both on the road and in the used car market. It's not a car you'll see every day, and that makes it all the more special. If you're lucky enough to find one in good condition, you're looking at a rare opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. And that brings us to the elephant in the room: reliability. The S85 V10 is a masterpiece, but it's also a ticking time bomb if not maintained properly. Rod bearings, throttle actuators, and SMG pumps are common failure points, and fixing them isn't cheap. Routine oil changes, religiously checking for wear, and treating it like a high-performance machine are non-negotiable if you want it to last. The M6 is not a car that you can neglect. If you want to own one, you need to be prepared for the financial commitment that comes with maintaining a high-performance car of this caliber. If you don't stay on top of things, the M6 will make you pay for it. The BMW M6 E63 represents a turning point in the automotive world, a moment when manufacturers began to question the norms of performance and luxury. It was a product of a time when BMW was committed to delivering cars that prioritized thrilling driving experiences over sheer comfort or practicality. The M6 was a car for the enthusiast, a true celebration of engineering, performance, and sound. The V10 engine, paired with a driver-focused chassis, produced a symphony of power and precision that left a lasting impression on anyone fortunate enough to get behind the wheel. In a world that increasingly leaned toward turbocharged engines and hybrid powertrains, the M6 E63 remains a reminder of an era where raw, unfiltered performance reigned supreme. For collectors and driving purists, owning one is a nod to an era of unrestrained engineering excellence that is becoming increasingly rare in today's more conservative automotive landscape. So, is the M6 E63 a good buy today? If you want a raw, naturally aspirated V10 experience, and are willing to put in the maintenance work? Absolutely, it's one of the last truly unhinged BMWs, and nothing they make today quite matches its character. The M6 E63 is a car that's full of personality, passion, and pure driving pleasure. But if you want something reliable, efficient, and easy to live with, you might want to look elsewhere. The M6 isn't for everyone, but for the right person, it's a car that delivers an unforgettable experience. That's a wrap on the BMW M6 E63. Let me know in the comments. Would you take on the challenge of owning one, or is this a hard pass for you? If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the wildest cars ever made. See you in the next one.